So what we're going to be doing here very shortly is James O'Keefe is going to be appearing on the screen before you. And James is going to explain to you why he has to appear on the screen. All of us received notice prior to this meeting as to why this has to happen. It's unfortunate. So when that is ready, you just let me know, Mike. Okay. Switch to So he's up there. Ladies and gentlemen, if you would still please give a very warm welcome to a very brave person from Project Veritas.
Hello, can everyone hear me?
Yes!
Hey, how are you? Well, I'd love to be with you in person tonight for this this event, which I really wanted to come to, but I've been advised that if I appear physically in New Hampshire, I will be hit with a grand jury subpoena. And in fact, yesterday, a representative of the state of New Hampshire attempted to serve me personally with a criminal grand jury subpoena. My lawyer, Mike Madigan, has requested a copy of it, and as soon as we learned of its existence, he requested a copy of it, and thus far the Attorney General of New Hampshire has declined to provide us a copy of that, so I'm going to follow my lawyer's advice and only appear with you today via Skype videotape. I think it's unfortunate that we live in a country these days where public officials threaten journalists, threaten to put journalists in jail for exposing facts legally. They've done this to me, they've threatened to do this to me for some time. But we're not going to stop. In fact, one of the tomorrow morning, we are going to issue a Freedom of Information Act into the Department of Justice for all communications between Governor Lynch, New Hampshire Attorney General, and United States Attorney General Eric Holder to determine Additionally, in the coming days, we're going to be releasing more videotape showing more fraud nationwide.
Good.
So we're not going to stop, and you know, it's the mission of Project Veritas not just to expose things for what they are, but also to expose how public officials react to us and some of the fraud that goes along with that. So today I'm going to show you some videotape, as long as Mike can get it geared up. I want to take you on a small journey through some of the things we've worked on, starting with voter fraud in the state of New Hampshire. And this is dead people registered to vote in the state of New Hampshire. We went into public locations, we didn't misrepresent ourselves, we didn't use any false pretenses, and we filmed public officials in public attempting to give us ballots in the name of dead people. So this first videotape I want to show you today is some news coverage showing dead people voting in New Hampshire.
One moment.
At the New Hampshire Parliament, people using the names of the dead on purpose to get a ballot and to prove a point. Hi everybody, Maria Stefanos.
And I'm Mark Ockel. Tonight it's such a concern. Ted Daniel here now with the story. Ted?
Mark and Maria, regardless of what people think of the tactics here, this is certainly an eye-opening investigation. It was conducted by conservative and controversial activist James O'Keefe and his group, Project Veritas. You may remember O'Keefe. He's the guy who made headlines dressing up as a pimp to expose problems at Acorn. On primary day, his people took undercover cameras and the names of the dead to polling places in New Hampshire.
Democratic ballot.
State law says you don't need an ID to vote in New Hampshire. And this video appears to show you may not need a pulse either. Watchdog group Project Veritas claims it gave the names of dead people at more than a dozen polling places.
Here we are, George F. at St. James Place. Okay, and you're a registered Democrat.
That's the registration.
Okay, so here's the Democratic ballot, and the pens are in the booth.
According to Project Veritas, they received ballots every time except one, when a poll worker actually knew the dead person. James O'Keefe says this shows just how easy it is for someone in New Hampshire to commit voter fraud.
In New Hampshire, I feel like this is the tip of the iceberg when it comes to the voting system. At the very least, they should remove all of the deceased people from the voter registration logs. That's my idea.
Look for your guy. This is New Hampshire. No idea.
There you go.
Citizen journalists did not commit any crimes because none of them ever actually voted. The New Hampshire State Attorney General is now investigating the integrity of the voting process and the tactics O'Keefe and Project Veritas use.
There's no expectation of privacy in the areas that we visited, these public areas. In fact, news reporters film polling locations all the time. So I think that's under the rubric of journalism. So I think what we did is moral, ethical, and necessary. We need to expose wrongdoing.
Okay, so New Hampshire House Speaker William O'Brien calls the video stunning. He says it shows a, quote, absurd level of ease of voting in New Hampshire, and he's going to try again to get a law passed that requires photo ID. We also talked to Nashua City Clerk Paul Bergeron tonight. He says this is nothing more than a stunt. He says O'Keefe and his group committed identity theft, and he wants them prosecuted.
So,
I'll move you over, James, 1 second. Okay, you're on the main screen.
So in response to this videotape, again, the governor asked to prosecute us, and a lot of local officials had asked to prosecute us. What's interesting is I'm going to show you some more tapes, and one of the things that we exposed in this investigation was some of the poll workers had no idea this was going on and said it couldn't happen. And Mike, if you could show that the next clip of the New Hampshire ward moderator, colorful character Rye Bullock, and his reaction, some of the statements he made after this investigation.
One moment. Excuse the slightly inelegant switching.
And in theory, it could happen. Not really, because basically we're now trying to do a statewide system. So when somebody passes away, that name is immediately dropped in the statewide network. Yes, well, within a matter of days.
I can't believe this guy lives in this.
So he's saying that these...
Okay, I stopped it. 1 second. You keep talking, James. I just move you.
So he's saying that these things never happen, the names are dropped, but clearly there's hundreds, if not thousands of names of dead names on the list of registered voters in the state of New Hampshire. And one of the other reactions to our video was to local officials in New Hampshire, such as the city clerk, appeared on MSNBC with Al Sharpton and asked and said that I'm creating a voter fraud situation, even though we're exposing the fact that dead people are on the rolls. So the next clip is a clip on MSNBC where Nashua City Clerk was talking about having me prosecuted.
Just trying to show you. Some faces.
Oh, okay. I'm going to play quite nice. I was trying to be a little more elegant in my switching. The window doesn't play that nice. Okay. Running.
Million votes, just one. So if in fact this man O'Keefe collected more than a dozen ballots in doing this film, he actually increased fraud in the state by 1,200% to try to prove there was a problem that
He's establishing an activity that creates a voter fraud situation, and it's his own activity that should be looked at and prosecuted.
Okay, start talking.
So the next tape I want to show you is we went across the state, went into Vermont, and we wanted to show and expose the hypocrisy of some of our opponents. So we went into the bars, the Motel 6s, we went into various places that all asked to see our identification. And then we said, well, that's racist. That's offensive to ask for identification to get a beer. So this is a little clip. This also prompted an investigation of the Secretary of State of Vermont and the Attorney General of Vermont into voter integrity. They're really investigating me, but they say they're investigating voter integrity. But I want to show you this clip of people in Vermont when asked for identification.
And objected to showing ID, what would happen?
You require a photo ID here?
Yes, we do. I'm very sorry that I can't serve you without an ID.
You don't care? That is racist.
I said, I'm sorry, I can't serve you without an ID.
Minorities are 20% more likely not to have a photo ID in the United States than white Americans. Personally, I am offended by that policy. The state requires it.
Yeah, you have to.
Why does your hotel have this racist policy? So you're following orders. Historically, that defense doesn't do so well.
Do you have an ID with you?
No, I don't. I don't have the time. I don't have the resources and money to say, look, I have to quit my job. Give me a secret. I don't want to drink very badly enough.
Okay, you're back.
So, one of the things that a lot of the journalists like to do is...
Oh, go. Hang on a minute.
Go.
Oh, connection problem. We'll get him back.
The sound effects help. And as we're getting James back on, I think one of the reasons why I did point out GraniteGrok is that you can only imagine Diane is extremely well organized, as is everybody who helped out with this event. And you can only imagine the scurry that had to happen to get James here.
Okay, go ahead, James.
Thanks, James.
So it dropped out just as that clip ended, so resume there. Thanks.
So what I was going to say is that, one of the things we did recently is we went into the United States Attorney General Eric Holder's own poll location in Washington, D.C., just to show how compromised the election systems are in this country. And the poll worker in the District of Columbia handed us Eric Holder's own ballot to vote, or attempted to give us his ballot to vote. And that footage was played before the House Judiciary Committee 2 weeks ago. So this is clearly having an impact. It's being played before Congress now, and these videos are really opening people's eyes. So I want to play you a couple minutes of that testimony before the House Judiciary Committee, Mike, showing the Holder video.
It hardly inspires the public confidence that a white 20-something can obtain the ballot of the first black attorney general. There's a little video here to illustrate that point.
A man walks into a poll location in Washington, D.C. and asks about United States Attorney General Eric Holder. The poll worker places a mark next to Eric Holder's name and offers the man Eric Holder's ballot to vote.
Hello. Do you have an Eric Holder? Visual DER.
Tell that guy knows where he's going.
That's the address. I actually forgot my ID. I left it in the car.
There you go.
I would feel more comfortable if I just had my IDs all right. I'll be back faster than you can say furious.
Gala Reception's pattern and practice of making strained legal arguments in areas it favors ideologically. King for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I apologize, I slipped in here a little bit late after you had opened your opening remarks, and I missed that video, and I'd ask if they could run that video again, at least for my benefit.
All right.
Absolutely.
I would feel more comfortable if I just had my IDs all right. I'll be back faster than you can say furious.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I thank staff for queuing that up for me again. I'm shocked that the Attorney General isn't shocked. I'm shocked that the Attorney General hasn't offered a response to this in a meaningful way. I sit in this committee and I have a friendly relationship with the former chairman of the Judiciary Committee, and he will remember me presenting an ACORN to him about 2007, asking for hearings on ACORN. And we had a good discussion on that. We had private meetings working that to try to get that done. I remember the gentleman from New York, Mr. Nadler, say before this committee that he thought it would be a good idea to investigate ACORN, and walk that back some subsequent to that time. But it would have been a good time to investigate ACORN. It took James O'Keefe to get this ACORN issue brought before America, and I carry this ACORN in my pocket every day to remember what happens to the foundation of American liberty when you have corrupt elections, when you have elections and votes that are being disenfranchised by fraudulent votes.
Mr. Chair. The recent ID law is necessary and non-discriminatory. Why do you think DOJ is insisting on fighting the American people on this issue?
Yeah. Well, Mr. Chairman, that is a $64,000 question. I don't understand how it is possible for anyone to object to the simple practice of showing identification to demonstrate that you are who you say you are when you go vote. That polling place that we saw in that videotape is where I vote. It's across the street from where I live. I mean, I got from the District of Columbia my new voter registration card. It's on a piece of typing paper. One of our RNLA members lives in the District of Columbia, and she got 5 of them, 5 different names sent to her apartment. Now, if she were not an honest person, she could just walk in and pretend to be each one of those people.
It's paused, moving over.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, you can go ahead and talk. I'll move you over.
So finally, I want to show this clip of the New Hampshire governor, and given all this evidence, overwhelming evidence of the election systems being compromised. We've done it legally. We didn't use any false pretenses. We asked, do you have an Eric Holder? We asked, do you have a John Doe? And we did it in public. We did it in places where there is no expectation of privacy, where journalists do their reporting from all the time. But even after all this evidence in Vermont, Minnesota, New Hampshire, and the District of Columbia, I want to play for you Governor Lynch's comments he made to your local television station. Mike, if you could play that last clip.
Coming up.
I think it's outrageous that we have these out-of-staters coming into New Hampshire, coming into places representing themselves to the election officials. And I hope that they should be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law, if in fact they are found guilty. And I hope that they should be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law, if in fact they are found guilty.
All right, pause it for a second. You can't prosecute someone if they're found guilty. And again, there's no misrepresentation in this video. And the last slide will show actually in the state, after our videos were released, the New Hampshire Senate attempted to pass a voter ID bill after our video. I don't know where that stands, but clearly the videos are having an impact. But it is unfortunate that this is what public officials do to journalists these days. But like I said, we're not going to stop, and we're going to continue our investigative reporting around the country. So what I would encourage you to do is support us financially, get our stories out, and try to oppose these efforts of intimidation by the government to shut down my teammates. Thank you.
You're full screen on video now, James. Jeff, you want to do some Q&A?
Sure. We have an opportunity to do a few questions. We're going to see how we can work this. If you raise your hand so I can bring the microphone to you, and then Mike will repeat it just in case James can't hear the question.
Well, let's ask James. Can you hear?
Can you hear me right now?
Yes, I can.
All right, perfect, James. Thank you. So if you have a question, raise your hand and stand up. Remember, a question, not a statement, so we can get to them fast. Real quick, right over here. And go ahead, ma'am.
I'm very impressed. Obviously, you're young. I just wondered what your background was, what your educational, how you got into this as a political activist at such a young age.
So, James, they want to know, obviously, you're very young. They want to know how you got into this and your background of how you got into this.
Sure. I'm 27. I've been doing this for about 3 to 4 years. I started on my college campus. I was surrounded by professors who were very hostile to truth and very aggressive, and I decided to start confronting my professors. I decided to start exposing how much money they make. Some of these professors made hundreds of thousands of dollars. I decided to try to hold officials accountable. The first major thing I ever did was a Planned Parenthood investigation with Lila Rose, and then went on to do Acorn videos with Hannah Giles. And then from there we've done National Public Radio last year, Medicaid fraud last year, and this year we've done about 4 or 5 voter fraud videos. And we're going to be focusing on election integrity and fraud and how money comes into politics this year, because it's such a big year in politics.
Okay, one more question? Or 2 more?
Jeff, will Cleta Mitchell continue to be investigating the voter fraud down there on an active basis?
So will Cleta Mitchell be investigating the voter fraud on an active basis down there?
I don't know Cleta Mitchell too well. All I know is the testimony I saw before the House Judiciary Committee, which you just saw, but I don't know, I haven't really spoken to her about that, so I'm not sure.
One more question?
Yes, back here. Sir.
Well, it's not a question, James. My name's Jack Kimball. I want everyone in this room to understand how difficult a job it is for what this man is doing. There's danger every day. And by the way, I know you had a relationship with Andrew Breitbart, and we all love him here. Yeah. I personally want to thank you on behalf of this country and the state for your courage. And I hope that more people, even in this room, will take this seriously and come out, not just with voter fraud, but what we're seeing, the scourge that is Obama and what's happening across this country. And you are a warrior in this fight. Thank you.
James, we got one more question?
The Pope's, way in the back,
way back here. I'm going to go back.
Whereabouts do you send support?
Oh, hold on. Need Mike.
Whereabouts do you send support?
So where do we send support, James?
Yeah, it's Project Veritas. That's Veritas. ProjectVeritas.com. And we are a charity. We are 501c3. We accept charitable donations, tax-exempt donations. So, they're going to try to come after us legally. That's what they always do. In fact, they've stopped. See, one of the great things about our videos and our films is there's no debating it. There's nothing to debate. It's on tape. It's a matter of fact what we expose. And what happens when you expose facts that run counter to their narratives, they have to try to put you in jail. And so I think as long as we have supporters, you can make a donation at projectveritas.com for our legal defense to fund more videos. They can try to stop me. They're coming after me, but right now we've got a number of people around the country with video cameras, and I can only continue to do that as long as I have money. And so if you can make a donation to help us out, that'll be very helpful.
Okay, one last question. Oh, okay, so we have some cards and we're going to distribute those out. James, we'll go ahead and we can't tell you how much we appreciate the time you've taken. We are saddened that our Attorney General chose the path he chose. And when we met at CPAC, you asked me one thing. You said, Jeff, just make sure the people of New Hampshire protect their right to vote. And James, we're going to do that for you one way or another. And as someone who's bred and born in New Hampshire, I'll just make it official now. James is an official New Hampshireite, and we should be proud of him.
Yourself and Andrew Breitbart over at Diane's place a few months ago in happier times, when you both challenged the listeners to get out and just get involved and do it themselves. And back over to you.
Yeah, that's one of the things that Andrew believed in. Andrew and I I remember sitting in that event talking to people in a creative way, and we just believe strongly in showing the truth through courage and creativity. And these people can, like I said, they can try to stop us, but I think they're going to be, the guys that I work with have a tremendous amount of courage, and I think that that's going to outweigh any threats coming from any of these people. Andrew taught me a lot, and I'm going to continue, or attempt to continue in his legacy, attempt to apply what he taught me, and release a lot of great stories this year.
Outstanding. Thank you very much, James. Ladies and gentlemen, James O'Keefe, Project Veritas. Ladies and gentlemen, we're coming to the end of our program.
GrokTV.